Hey, this is Arrabon and our Thoughtful Thursday, where we answer questions that will help you become more of a reconciling community. My name is David Bailey.
And I'm Elena Aronson.
And today our question is, why do we oftentimes see a disconnect between personal piety and acts of justice within our churches? Elena, what have you noticed?
I've definitely noticed this, and it's become something that I'm actually quite concerned about. A scripture that's been really significant in our community has been Isaiah 58. And in this passage, God reprimands the Israelites for creating this same kind of disconnect between personal piety and the way that they're engaging with the marginalized in their communities. God says, you're doing all of these things to try and impress me, but they're actually making no impact. I want to see you demonstrating my love for the world through acts of justice for the community. And the hope is that the Israelites change their behavior and realize that these things, love for God and love for neighbor, are intimately connected. I think we experience this disconnect a lot in America because Christianity is seen as fitting in with mainstream culture. This is really different than the early church and the church in many other parts of the world, because when you become a Christian, there are huge implications for how you live your life, especially when you're a persecuted Christian. When you accept Christ, you expect every part of your life to change. In America, we just expect this spiritual transformation, which results in us relegating the power of God's conversion in our life to just these spiritual practices. And oftentimes those spiritual practices are just reading our Bible, praying, journaling, going to church on Sundays and singing, and it really doesn't have any impact on how we engage with our neighbors.
For many Christians, their gospel starts in Genesis 3, where the fall happens, and then it kind of fully comes to an end where Jesus comes and redeems it on the cross and through the resurrection, and that's where we call redemption. But when you look at the way the Bible was written, it started out Genesis 1, where the whole world was good in creation. And then there was a fall in Genesis 3. And then there's a story of redemption. But it ultimately doesn't end there. It ultimately goes towards restoration. Creation, fall, redemption, and restoration is the whole good news. And so it's not just about the world didn't start off as a spiritual world. It actually started as a material world with actual goodness and good materials. And when the fall happened, it just didn't only happen for a spiritual fall, it happened for a physical fall. And what's being redeemed is not just only the spiritual redemption, but redemption and restoration is both spiritual and physical. So whatever your bias is, whether it's a spiritual gospel or physical gospel, when you separate those two things, you're actually separating a personal piety and acts of justice. But what we need to do is take on the whole counsel of Scripture and understand what the whole gospel is saying, and make sure that we are both engaging both in personal piety and acts of justice so that we can be a credible witness to the world.
Thank you for watching the Thoughtful Thursday video. Please leave questions or comments in the comment area below. Take a moment and share this with a friend, and hit subscribe so that you can get the Thoughtful Thursday question each week.